class this spring at Ohio State University is dedicated to what it clearly regards as the biggest problem in a country with a lot of problems. Of course, it's straight white men. Be a Man, Masculinity's Race and Nation is the name of the class, and it will, needless to say, attack white men for their privilege in a whole bunch of ways. Readings have titles like Advertising and the Construction of Violent White Masculinity. Of course, appears to revolve around how white men have victimized everybody else since the beginning of time. Christy Setzer is the president of New Heights Communication. She's a longtime Democrat who thinks deeply about these issues, and she joins us tonight. So here's my question, Christy, without getting into just how unbelievably awful every single straight white man is.
Clearly.
I think that goes without saying. As an electoral strategy, this has become really common on the left, even from elected officials in the Democratic Party dismissing white men as bad, prima facie bad. Isn't it kind of bad politics to, like, tell tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that you hate them for who they are? Like, they're never going to vote for you. Why would you do that?
So that Ohio State professor was not tapped to write policy the last time I checked.
Right.
I don't see any policies coming out of the Democratic Party that are meant to demonize white men.
Oh, really? So, just, I guess, all of them, beginning with affirmative action and hiring set-asides and all that. But it's not, you're right, but it's not just Ohio State. The senior elected Democrat in the House of Representatives last week attacked the negotiations over DACA only because they were being led by, quote, 5 white men, as if that was, like, inherently discrediting.
Okay, so that is something different, and that is something that I think that Trump brings up for a lot of people, which is that he has, in his 1 year in office already, made the least diverse cabinet in a generation. His court appointments have been almost exclusively white males, something like 91%. So if you look at that as a woman, you think, Now, obviously, white men are not the only people on the planet. I also don't believe that they should be the only people in positions of power, but President Trump does seem to feel this way.
Well, I don't know. I mean, but you're not supposed to attack people on the basis of things they can't control, like their sex and their race. Those are the rules.
Sure.
And if all of a sudden you have elected officials openly attacking people, not because of things they've said or things they've done, beliefs they have, but on the basis of their sex and race, that's profoundly alienating to people of the same race and sex, or maybe even other people of good conscience. Do you see?
Right, like maybe saying that people from certain African countries probably could all be seen the same way and not in a very positive way.
I don't think he said that. I think he attacked the country. Whatever. But I mean, I guess if you don't like that kind of talk, then why engage in it? I guess that's my question. I mean, so Trump says naughty things is not really an answer, and this is everywhere in the Democratic Party. I mean, I've got a whole list of Democratic officials attacking white men for being white men. What's the idea here? What are you getting out of this?
They're not attacking white men for being white men. They're attacking the idea that things are not diverse, and that if we want to actually have sincere conversations in America about, I don't know, the way things are and the way we can improve our country, then we actually have to listen to more voices than just those of
Oh, okay. So here's Sally Boynton Brown. She was running for DNC chair. She runs the Democratic Party in a state in Idaho. She said, my job is to be someone who shuts up other white people, shuts them down. Really?
Right. So I remember that comment, and that was kind of a stupid comment. But what she meant by that was sometimes the people in power need to just sit back and do some listening as opposed to all the talking. And I can understand that. But she's saying not every white man is in power. In fact, the life expectancy for a lot of white men is going down. That's not true for any other group. There are a lot of white men who have no power at all. In fact, they're dying younger than other people. So I guess it's the assumption that because of your race and sex you somehow have power is itself the definition of racist. I think we both agree. So why say that crap in public? Like, what's the point of it? I think that was a pretty dumb statement that she made. But again, the sentiment behind it, I think, is one that we can agree with, which is that, you know, sometimes the people in power need to be doing the listening instead of the talking. Well,
I completely agree with that. I mean, I feel that way about Nancy Pelosi, who's held power for too long, and she can shh and listen. But it's not about her race or sex. Bottom line, how can a party that attacks people on the basis of their race expect to win any votes from those people? Like, is there a calculation?
Again, I don't believe that the Democratic Party does attack people on the basis of their race. I think that's actually something that we've seen a lot from the Republican Party.
Wow. I mean, we may be living in different countries because I see it a lot. Christy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tucker.